As business owners, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, how do you keep your best employees? You know, people are calling them, you know, they're offering them more money. But the challenge is, how do we keep them engaged, wanting to come to work? And how can we give them more than what they're being offered from these people that are trying to come and steal people from your company? We talked about rehiring your old employees, going to them and asking them what you need. I know people are calling you. Why are you staying? And what can we do to keep you here? Well, there is a way to do this. There's a way to give all of your employees a raise without it costing you a dime. It doesn't touch your bottom line. So if you're interested to know how to do that, you're going to want to stay tuned.
Welcome to the KeyHire Small Business Podcast, hosted by Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, where small business owners learn how to build stronger teams, simplify growth, and scale confidently. Got feedback or topic ideas? Send us a text. If you're listening on a handheld device, tap the link in the show notes to message the show. Subscribe or follow on your favorite platform, and follow KeyHire Solutions on social media for more insights and updates between episodes. To learn more about how KeyHire can help scale your business, visit keyhire.solutions. Connect with Corey on LinkedIn through the link in the show notes. Mention you're a listener, and he'll accept your request. And now, on with the show. Here's your host, Corey Harlock.
Before we get started, if I could just take 2 minutes of your time and ask a small favor. Would you be against helping us spread the word and get the podcast in front of other listeners? It doesn't take much. It takes less than 3 seconds. All you have to do is hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. That little act will get us into the algorithm. So when people tune into their favorite platform to listen to podcasts, we might show up and they might say, hey, here's a podcast you might enjoy. It's a little bit of effort on your side, and it would mean a lot to us on our side. So it would mean the world to me if you could help us out. So let's get back into the show here. If you haven't had a chance yet, on August 10th, we recorded a show, Why Great Candidates Ghost You. It was a solo episode by me, but we just talked a lot about the hiring process that you're using and the mistakes you're making and how to correct them. So if your candidate experience is your best recruiting tool. As small business owners, we don't have the luxury of a big name, Google or an Apple. People aren't lining up when we announce we're hiring people. Oftentimes, they're going to apply to us or hear about us on a flyer. They might do a little research and say, this looks okay. But the impact of a great candidate experience can move the needle. And if I remember correctly, it's 83% of people have kind of reported taking a job with a company they didn't know about or they didn't have a great impression of because of a great candidate experience and hiring process. Inversely, I think it's 87% of people have turned down a job they were excited about because of a poor experience. Super important, and we outline exactly how to set up that process in our August 10th episode. And then last week, we talked to Stefan Boomer. I don't have the German accent, I'm sorry. But we talked about how to create a simple incentive program that employees will understand. It was an amazing conversation. We talked about everything from your business development to your account managers, long sales cycles to short sales cycles, and how to incentivize each of these people. He laid it out. He laid the foundation out on. Sorry, that was my Canadian. I'm speaking Canadian to you. He laid the framework out on how to put together these incentive programs. And it was a really, really great show. I learned a ton. Stefan's a smart guy. So go back and check out last week's episode as well. Okay, let's move into this week. We're talking to Tony Manganiello. He's a contributing columnist to Inc. magazine. He's a keynote speaker and author who shows employers how to improve performance, engagement, and retention by giving employees the equivalent of up to a 40% raise without increasing payroll. Matt, let's welcome Tony to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me, Corey.
Hey, my pleasure. I always ask people, especially with these tricky last names, did I get it?
Yeah, you did.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Good, yeah. Man. Thanks. Well, you coached me, so.
I said that I is silent.
I is silent, right. Yeah. So when we first talked, you had a really unique service and outlook and philosophy around employees and how an employer can be of service to their employees by helping them maximize the dollars in based on their salary and what they make. So we're not talking about 401k here. We're not talking about benefits. We're not talking about insurance plans. We're talking about something that I thought was incredibly unique. So give us and the people listening the 30,000 foot overview of what it is, and then we'll dive into the details.
Well, back in the 90s, mid 90s, I helped a Inc. 500 company go Inc. 500 3 times in 4 years. I worked with them. And during that process, I created something I call the cash flow mastery system. Instead of employees managing spending, which is where a lot of employer type initiatives and corporate consulting kind of goes into spending management, I teach how to manage cash flow. And when they understand the difference, the equivalent up to that 40%, that equivalent 40% raise, it begins to surface on its own. So it's just a matter of taking the same input and just getting a different output.
And that kind of trickles through to put it really in low level, because I'm not a high level thinker, but it's like how to manage your spending a little better and how to manage your savings a little better. Is that kind of on the right track?
It's a completely different paradigm. You know, what happens on payday is the employers and the employees, they both have expectations, right? The employee, he gets an expectation that I got the check, it's going to move my life forward. And when an employer, they run payroll and they give the paycheck to the employee, they're expecting performance, engagement, and retention in return.
Right.
And so what that experience back in the 90s, it introduced me to the idea and the concept of personal financial stress in the workplace, which I'm sure everyone has at least heard about, maybe even gone a little deeper in. But like Price Waterhouse recently found that 59% of employees are financially stressed. Morgan Stanley found that 56% say financial stress negatively affects their work. And while 80% of HR leaders say that they see financial problems hurting the productivity across the board. Brightplan found that 78% of business leaders connect employee financial stress with high turnover, and have even said that the stressed employee can waste up to 7.3 hours per week on the clock.
20%.
And so,
yeah, it's a day, one day.
Yeah, it's almost a whole day. It's like 15% of their week is being wasted. And so when you put those numbers next to the two payday expectations and you start connecting some dots, you see that the employee keeps getting paid, but if most of the income is disappearing into payments and financial obligations, payday stops feeling like progress. And so they even be getting paid well. I think I saw a report that employees making over $100,000 a year, I think it was 43 or 47% of them also feel that kind of stress. And
sure,
you would think that the more you make, the better it is. But
no, you adjust your lifestyle according to what you make, right? So,
and it's because I call it the income shovel.
Yeah,
this is really where the difference is between some of the other programs and what I teach. Is no one teaches people that your income is a shovel and you're either digging a hole or filling it.
Oh, that's good to know.
Most people, before I get to them, they're digging a hole. And when you get a raise, what happens to your shovel gets bigger.
Yeah, you get a raise, so you upgrade your life. And that's
exactly.
that's how it works.
Bigger house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's lifestyle inflation.
When I talk to people who are looking for new jobs, that's part of the conversation. I mean, of course, you have a standard of life or a lifestyle you want to maintain that your experience and salary have afforded you, and no one wants to go backwards in what that is. Everyone wants to go forward. But
exactly.
And I just wanted to check in. You said, this financial stress. In layman's terms, that's probably the people living paycheck to paycheck, worried about putting food on the table, paying rent, paying their bills, not having enough left over.
Yeah, it's also people they have enough left over, but they're getting closer to what I call the retirement cliff.
Right.
And the difference about the retirement cliff is when you go over it, you don't die. You just have to work until you do. And so there's a lot of stress of people who are doing well. They got their bills paid, but they have maybe $50,000 or $100,000 in a 401k, and they're 58.
Right.
They're 62. How long is $100,000 going to last you in retirement?
Yeah.
And that gets back to the whole idea of your income being a shovel. When you learn to fill the hole as opposed to dig the hole, and then you begin to build a mountain, now what that does to the stress level is it starts to feel much less like you're under the gun.
Right.
And even in the beginning, when people, and I see this all the time, over the last dozen or so years, I've done over 1,000 personal consultations. And when you show people the numbers the way I show them numbers a little bit differently. And they see, this is why every year I'm making a New Year's resolution to get my finances in order. Following all that spending management stuff just keeps them in the same platform. They're still shoveling in the wrong direction. And what they're doing is they're saying, okay, I'm shoveling into this bucket for taxes, that bucket for living expenses. And I can try and trim that down, because obviously you can, instead of having 12 streaming services, maybe have 2 or 3, that sort of thing. And then you got to shovel into the debt payments, right? And then shovel into retirement. Well, the retirement shovel is really kind of small when you think about all the other ones. And so I teach people how to shovel with the retirement shovel to free up the debt payment shovel. Basically, most people are putting, when you think about the numbers where I get that 40%, that's how much people have to gross or more to bring home enough to make their payments. Because debt to income ratio, which is what not everybody, but most people use to determine if they're doing okay.
Right.
They don't tell you, no one ever stops to say, hey, how much do you have to gross in order to bring home enough to make those payments? If you got $32,000 in payments and you're making $100,000 a year, that's 32% DTI, which according to the experts is healthy, because they say below 36% is good.
Yeah, and
they say it's healthy
because if you live in a state where the tax is 40%, you're bringing home 60, you're debt 32, you only got $28K left to live on after you pay all your bills.
Exactly. And that's where when I show them how these numbers work, it's like, the light bulb goes on and they feel a sense of relief, because up until then, it's what am I doing wrong? I must be making a mistake.
Right. Because
they don't realize the system is designed. When they say you have a healthy debt to income ratio, no one ever explains who it's healthy for, because it's not healthy for the person with it.
It's great for the
It's healthy for the lenders.
Yeah.
The lenders will say, they're healthy, so I can suck more out of them without worrying about that sucking process getting interrupted.
Right. Without them defaulting. Right.
Exactly.
We talk a lot about retention and building loyalty within your people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of employers, small business owners, have hourlies. And they pay a fair wage based on what their business does and what they're asking the people to do. And this seems like a service that a business owner could bring to their people to really show that, hey, I know times are tough. I appreciate you working for me. I might not be able to give you, and you talked about, turnover. That's where you get into these crazy times where people are just flipping over because someone's calling them offering $1 an hour more. I'll give you $1 an hour. Okay, see ya. Next company. And then we just get into this bidding war for talent, which doesn't serve anyone.
Right.
And if someone's been with you a while and you can continuously show them, I'm trying to help you, I appreciate the work you're doing, I want you to stay with me, and I want to take care of you and make sure you're taken care of. Because a lot of business owners do carry that burden of, I have 80 staff and they're looking to me to put food on their table and pay their rent and put their kid through college.
Yeah.
This has got to be one of those things that it feels to me that if a business owner had a meeting and said, we're going to provide you a service here, we get it, times are tough, inflation a little crazy, tariffs, maybe business is down a little bit, or we didn't have a banner year, so we weren't able to give you all raises, but I want to help. This seems like it would be one of those things where someone who understood this and appreciated it, maybe they've been with the company a year or two, not only would it help them, but it would also build loyalty into your business, because people if they get it, they would say, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens.
And really helpful.
Yeah. The retention issue, there are things, and we both know this, when it comes to corporate politics, culture, all of those things, but the type of people, employers that you're expressing, they're people who care, they have a heart. And I was the same way back when I had, managed 130 people, or I had a small debt relief company that had like 40 people. And I have a concept I call the forgotten customer. And what I mean by that is, if you define your customer as someone who gives you money for your product or service, what is that? It's an exchange of value.
Right.
Well, if an exchange of value defines a customer, what do you think happens when your employee gives you their time for your money? That's an exchange of value.
Interesting.
And I looked at them as my first customer. And in most companies, most employers don't think of that. It's like, if you think of your employee as a customer, I was listening to some of the podcasts you had recently, and it's just, you said in one of them, and you expressed it here, you just want to make sure they're taken care of.
Yeah.
You do everything you can for your customer. Why wouldn't you do the same thing for the employee who is on the front line dealing with that customer?
100%. That's the episode I did 2 weeks ago that I was talking about in the intro. Your candidate is your customer. Treat them like a customer.
Yeah.
And that's why
exactly.
in that employee experience, that candidate experience is your sales process.
Yes.
To put it bluntly. And I never made that point in the podcast, but that's what it is. You have a sales process. You know how to what buttons and dials to turn to get a sale. Why don't you have that with people you want to have come and work with you? And my biggest,
you're seeing them every day. Why don't you want that to be a great experience, or as great as possible?
Right. And there's so many people out there now that are saying, hire slow, fire fast, get used to firing. We all suck at hiring. No.
You just suck at leadership.
Or, not even to be that blunt, but you don't suck at hiring. You just never learned how to do it correctly. And you never learned that there's a process for hiring too. I mean, the KeyHire model, we have a 90% success rate at hiring. 90%.
Wow. Awesome.
Business owners have 25 to 33% because they think, I'll hire in my spare time and I'll go by gut feel, and you don't run any other part of your business that way, right? So,
and that's the same thing with payroll.
That's a good
when
point.
You're doing, they just, you let it, you pay it out, and you just have these expectations, but you don't scrutinize what happens after payday.
Payroll is automated. It's an automated process, so I don't have to think about it.
And that is, when you think about the line items on a profit and loss statement, payroll is one of, if not the biggest one. And in the book that I was telling you about earlier,
25 to 33%, right?
Yeah. And you're not going to want to get the most out of that investment as possible. You're going to treat those people.
Tony, I like this conversation. This is fun.
Well, think of it this way. I explain in the book, The Payday Blind Spot, I mentioned earlier that, I talk with Matt, and I'd love to give a free copy to your listeners.
Yeah, we'll put a link. We'll put a link at the end of the show. So we don't want to give it to them now. They'll take your book.
No, we want. This is us selling you to listen to the end of this. But think of it this way: if you have you ever done a click-through campaign?
Yeah.
Like okay,
Yeah.
so you're spending $100,000 a month on a click-through campaign. Campaign is generating clicks. Things are going great. You look at the conversions, they're in the toilet. And so what do? You start A/B testing. You start doing all these things on the front end. And then one day a tech guy comes up to you and he says, hey, Corey, every time somebody clicks on the link, the landing page fails 50% of the time. And then when it does actually load, the opt-in form fails the other 50% of the time. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep putting money into it and working on the front end? Or you're going to say, wait, time out. We need to fix the landing page, make sure it loads 100% of the time. And we got to make sure that the opt-in form is working all the time.
Right.
Well, that's what payroll is. They say, I'm going to keep putting stuff into it on payroll. When that paycheck hits, their account on payday, I'm not going to think about it. But when I look at somebody's personal finances like I've been doing for 30 years, the numbers are always very close to being the same. Getting back to that 40% raise, I've seen people have to generate 47%, 48% of their income, gross income has to be generated to bring home enough just for their debt payments. And then once they make those debt payments, the thing that shocks the heck out of them all is that anywhere between 48 and 53%, sometimes higher, of the payments themselves is interest.
Just interest. I knew
just
you were going
interest.
there, yeah.
So, here you've got your landing page, meaning my gross income is failing half the time because it's already spent close to it, at least 40%. That's where the 40% raise comes from. And then when it does succeed and hits my account, another 40 to 50% is lost. I call that the 50-50 drain. And when you help your employees not solve that, you don't really have to give them a lot of motivation. When they learn that that's what's happening, they immediately want to know what they need to do.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about.
God, I hate interest. It drives me crazy.
Oh, and see, the thing about interest, it's my kids will come to me every now and then and say, yeah, I bought a new guitar. And they say, I don't have to make any payments. There's no interest and no payments until 12 months from now.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but on 12 months and one day, all the interest you would have been charged all of a sudden comes forward to that day and, pay it off before that 12th month.
And I was going to say, I bet you the data shows that within that 12-month period, you're going to forget all about those payments and you won't go in and pay that thing off. And all of a sudden you're going to see your bank account and go, oh, shit, what happened? Oh, I forgot all about it.
How much do I owe on this thing now? And nobody stops to think, how much do you have to gross to bring home that payment?
Yeah, and that's calling you to say, oh, remember, you have a payment coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the thing is that most people, when you think about life today, chaos is the new normal, right? Not many people are sitting around their day twiddling their thumbs thinking, I have nothing to do today, especially, people in they're working their prime of their careers, lot of stuff going on. And when it comes to that life, that's the post-payday life. That's the post-click experience. And for employers to not want to at least be aware of what's happening after the click, meaning what's happened after they got their check, that's why what we do is we show employees, this is what's happening to your income. And they're all like, well, what do I got to do to fix it? And we show them. And then what the result of that is, all of a sudden, now they, how many times have you heard, you probably heard this much more than I have ever heard, is that I hate to have to leave, but they're going to pay me more. What if you could remove that obstacle to retention completely? What if you could show your people that instead of shoveling money out to all of these payments that you have every month, you can start shoveling to fill the hole and build a mountain. And once that mountain starts getting built, once that hole, they see the hole filling up, and it doesn't happen overnight, obviously, because unless you give somebody a really big raise. Yeah. But once they see that it's possible, I call it the clarity moment. They have what I call cash flow clarity.
Right.
oh, I now know why I've been struggling. It's not my fault. It's not, I didn't make mistakes. I got caught up in something that the system, I call the system the payment matrix, like the movie. You know, they're all plugged in, and I'm just this little Italian just throwing red pills at everybody in reach. And in the middle of all that, and you know, one of the things, and I'll share this real quick, is that back in the 90s, we were teaching this type of concept, and we were growing crazy, you know, Inc. 500 3 times out of 4 years. And part of our hiring process was, okay, you need to know what our customers learn and what we do. We teach our customers. So I would do seminars for new employees. And when they learned what we taught, they'd be like, oh, this really makes a lot of sense. And so our employees by default just started practicing what we preached to the customer. And then we started seeing back in 96 or 97, one of the things we taught was seminar leaders how to go out and teach our concept, because everybody loved it. I want to find out how to become debt-free, pay off my debt, build tax-free wealth with the same dollars at the same time. How the heck do you do that? And so as we started teaching people to do that, our marketing department would also give them marketing materials. Again, this was back when you had to have brochures, trifolds, you might remember those, folders with inlets and stuff. And one of the headlines was, give your employees a 23% raise in pay without touching a dime of payroll. And so, you know, I was familiar with this data because we did that back 30 years ago. And in the book, I wrote a book 2 years ago, and during the research, I saw that the statistics for financial stress in the workplace have not gotten better.
No.
They've gotten worse. And I was just like, we never experienced that type of problem because our employees were learning what we taught the end user, and they were just applying it to their lives. And they were like, you know, if something happened that they had an expense, that emergency or whatever, they understood that this was just a blip on the radar because they were working on a bigger platform. And so after I wrote that book in 2024, and I started looking into this again, I'm like, employers need to know that their biggest investment is not being scrutinized like any other investment they make. And just like cash flow, I mean, business owners, they don't think about spending management. They think about cash flow management. I'm shoveling money in that direction. What am I getting back out of it? Well, if you're shoveling money into a mortgage at, 6.5% for 30 years, you think you're getting something back. In the first 7 years, you're actually paying about 75% interest.
It's nuts.
And it is. And so when your employees learn this, the reason you want them to know this is because your investment in their future begins to now not have as much, it's not as much jeopardy as it was when they were just living life on some spending management plan, feeling the heat, thinking, how many times have you heard people say, if I could just make a little more money?
Yeah.
Well, what if you didn't have to worry about that? What if you could get more of what you're already making?
Sure.
When you show them what's happening to it, they have I call it the Shrek moment. That explains a lot, and it all takes a natural course. And as an employer, your biggest investment deserves that kind of scrutiny and that kind of support.
Yeah, it's interesting. I alluded to the concept of rehire your current employers. And I've always said it's not. You don't need to wonder if your competition is calling them. They are. They're getting calls. Put your head in the sand. And that's the concept of is rehiring your best employees is just go to them and say, I know you're getting called. I appreciate you not, pursuing any of those calls. What's making you stay? And what can I do to keep you from not taking those calls? Right. Everyone's going to answer something different. Someone might be more vacation. Some people might be a raise. You might be prepared to give them a 20% raise. They might say, if I could get 10% raise, that would mean the world. It could be my dog's getting old, and if you could take care of the benefits for my dog, so when I go to the vet, it doesn't cost me so much money. It could be anything. And this is not even an individual approach. This is a blanket approach. This is setting a foundation for your staff to say, we care about you and your well-being, and we want you to be healthy and happy and have fun at home. So you enjoy that time. So when you're here, we get the best out of you. We can continue to take care of you, and you can go home and continue to have less stress in your life versus I got paid, it's not enough, I'm stressed out, I bring that stress to work, and you get into that stress loop, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So let's get into Tony. I think we've scared the shit out of enough people. Let's tell them now. Let's kind of give them some baby steps. If other than calling you, if someone wanted to look into this or start down the right path, what are the first 2, 3, 5 steps they need to take to have a look at this and maybe start making some change in how they manage their money?
Well, the first thing is when it comes to, are you asking for the employer or the employee?
Employer or employee. Okay. Let's talk to the employee.
Okay. If, from an employee standpoint, I'm talking about the individual. The first thing you need to do is say, time out. How much I make $3,000 a month in payments every month, house, cars, whatever. That's $36,000 a year. How much do you have to gross to bring home that $36,000 a year?
Right.
And you'll see that it's around 40% or more.
I was going to say you said 36, so you probably need to make at least $50K before tax to get $36K.
Yeah. And so how much of that is what percentage of that is your growth of your gross income is that? If you're making $100,000 and 50 of it's spoken for, you have the first 50 of what I call the 50-50 drain.
Right.
And then when you make your payments, see if you can find on the mortgage statement, the credit card statement. Interestingly enough, people will tell you never buy a brand new car because it's the worst investment you could ever make. It's such a joke. When it comes to interest, you pay less interest on a brand new car than you do a credit card because of the way credit card payments are structured.
Right. Well, I won't get into that. Brand new car, you get 0% financing, right? And when
and so they talk about you're going to lose money because you drive up, blah blah blah. There's a way to buy brand new cars every 5 years. And after 5 or 6 cars, have $100,000 into your name. I won't get into that. These are the things that we teach. We're teaching, number one, awareness. Get clarity on where you're at, and those two: how much you have to gross to bring home your debt payments, and how much of your monthly payments is actual interest. Because the APR you're being charged doesn't really give you a good clue into how much monthly interest you're paying every month. Okay, find out those two numbers. And it's when you do that, you get clarity. Then the next thing is, how do I change this? And you realize how you need to start thinking of ways to change the direction that you're shoveling your income into. And that's what we've been teaching people for 30 years.
Well,
but those 2 points of clarity would be important.
Yeah. And I think the interesting is people are like, it's like 5%, big deal. But it compounds and it's crazy town. Like, especially over
5% mortgage in the first 7 years, thinking in terms of, okay, what do you do in your budget?
In the first 7 years of a mortgage, all you're paying is interest. You don't pay any of your principal down. Yeah.
And there's an example I use in some of my material. A $300,000 home at 6.7% interest has a $1,945 payment every month. 7 years, which oftentimes is how often somebody will move or refinance. Every time you refinance to save that couple $100 a month, all you're doing is restarting the clock.
Okay.
In 7 years on that mortgage, you'll make about $163,000 in payments. And you know how much you've reduced the mortgage balance by?
I'm going to say zero.
$27,000.
Of how much?
So out of $163,000 in payments on a $300,000 mortgage, you bought $2,700 of that original mortgage balance down.
Yeah.
So think of it this way, Corey. If I came to you and I said, "Give me $1,900 a month for 7 years, and at the end I'll give you back 30 grand. What would you tell me to do?
Yeah.
Right? But when you put a mortgage on it,
it sounds like
you say, oh, it's a mortgage. Oh, where do I sign?
Yeah. It sounds like how I buy stocks. So this is cool. And I know there is a lot, I know there are business owners out there who are looking for ways, especially small business owners. We have to take advantage of things like these because we can make the decision to do it. We don't have to go to the board. It's not a political thing. We're agile.
Right.
I got one last question before we wrap. The battle cry of a small business owner is, ooh, that sounds like it's going to take a lot of my time and it's going to cost me a lot of my money. So to implement something like this in my business, and I'm not looking for how much it costs or what you charge or anything like that, but how much time does it cost a business owner to say, I want to engage someone to do this for my employees?
The time involved, full disclosure, is through the due diligence to make sure that you believe it's going to be right for your business.
Okay.
And then the coordination of getting the education in place.
Yeah, they have administrators.
But from there,
but
from there, I do all the work. We do all the work. I've been teaching this for 30 years. So, and as far as the cost, it depends on the size of the company. Smaller companies, we work on a per individual, per employee basis. So we have numbers that we don't want to make it an obstacle to entry.
Right. So it's kind of a price per employee type thing. So if you got 30 employees, you pay for 30 employees or whoever opts into the program. I didn't want to get into that, but I just wanted to eliminate this sounds like it would be a lot of work. It's just like engaging anyone else to come and do work in your business. It's what we do. Then you guys do the rest. Okay.
The only thing that might take time is once you start seeing what we're teaching, you're probably going to be like, wait, how do I do this now?
Exactly. So I'm a small business owner. I'm thinking, I got some good people that I would hate to lose, and I want to make sure I take care of them. I think I need to talk to Tony. How do I reach out to you? How do we get in touch with you?
You can go to tonymags.com, TonyMags.com, or send me an email, Tony@TonyMags.com. I don't make them spell that whole last name out.
I was going to say, you like drop letters though, because it's Manganiello and then it's Mags. You drop the N now.
I have to tell you, when I was in school and they were doing roll call, in the beginning, back in the 80s, 70s and the 80s, and I would just wait for them to get to the L's and wait until there was a pause. Because then I knew they got to my name, because M.A. is one of the first M names. Yeah. And I just raised my hand. I knew they got to me. Yeah. But no, so TonyMags.com or Tony@TonyMags.com. And just let me know in the subject that you listen to the Corey's podcast.
Cool. And you mentioned a book.
Yes.
So how
the payday blind spot, the editing just completed this morning. Okay. So the next step is to get it formatted for ebook, and that version I mentioned to Matt that I'm going to give that version, give a link that your listeners can download a version of that for free.
And we'll include that in an upcoming newsletter or whatever, so they can dial into it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thanks. It's been great. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Me too, Corey. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Tony Manganiello. Great conversation, interesting concept. We're always trying to find ways to help these small business owners get a competitive advantage. And I truly think there's something there. So definitely go check out Tony and see what he has to offer. Helping out your employees. Times are tough. I mean, everyone's complaining about how tough it is. So it's just a cool way that you can help out. If you have any comments or questions about the show, use that text us button down there. I'd love to hear what your questions or comments are, or you have a question about any other previous show. It's first line in the show notes. Text us your comments or ideas. Let us know what you think. Coming up next, we'll be talking about behavioral economics and the science of influence and persuasion. Very useful in managing people and getting sales, so you want to check that out. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Harlock, and until next time, stop grinding, start growing.